Hello everybody and welcome to Girl Central, brought to you by the YWCA, a show that builds strong and confident girls. My name is Lexis and today we've planned a special career segment for you. So let me introduce you to my friends.
Hey, I'm Delia and I'm in the marching band.
Hi, I'm Haley and I just got a job at Cold Stone.
And we have the pleasure of having Nina Jacobson here with us in the studio. So hi Nina.
Hi.
Hey.
She was the president of Disney, and she later opened her own company called Color Force Productions, which produced The Diary of a Wimpy Kid. And currently, Nina is producing, wait for it, The Hunger Games. Amazing, right? Okay, Nina, we have some questions for you.
Okay.
So, what is a producer, and what types of things do you do in your job?
Well, there are different kinds of producers. There are line producers who do a lot of the sort of nuts and bolts of figuring out the schedule and the budget and making sure that everything that needs to get there on a certain day so you can make your movie gets there when you need it. But I am a creative producer, so what I do involves sort of the inception of the idea. In my case, the movies I've produced have all been based on books so far, and so that has meant reading a book and thinking that it looked like it could make a good movie, and securing the rights. Sometimes the book is published already, like Wimpy Kid and Hunger Games. Sometimes it's not been published yet, like One Day, another movie that I made. Once I've made an agreement with the author that I have sort of the right to be the producer of his or her book or script or magazine article, could really be any source of an idea, could start just as an original idea, then we will usually choose a financier, a studio partner, and find the right place for each piece of material, and then hire a writer and start to work on turning the material into a movie. Once you have a script that you're happy with, then the producer is very much involved in the decision of who's going to direct it. And once you know who's going to direct it and you've started to figure out what it's going to cost, then you work with the studio on who's going to star in it, who's going to be the production designer of it, all of the sort of key departments. And the producer works in partnership with the director and with the studio to pull together the elements. A lot of times the producer has to hold the movie together. Movies tend to want to fall apart. And to be sort of a creative steward, a protector of the material, and try to make sure that the movie becomes what the shared vision of it wants to be. So that involves going on location to wherever the movie is shooting, sitting there. Different producers are involved at different levels, depending on each producer's style. But I'm on location with the movie, watching the filming day to day, making sure that the movie that you're making is the movie that you want to be making. And then during post-production, being there when you have the first cut of the movie, having an opinion about where to go with the editing of the film. Should it be more dramatic in this section, or shorter here, or more emotional there? And staying with it all the way through, starting to show it to audiences, all the way through when the studio starts to put the marketing campaign together, and you might have a perspective on that, and all the way through to the very last moment when you turn it over and hope that audiences like it.
You do a lot.
You do so much. Yeah.
Yeah.
So when you were in high school, is this the career that you thought you would have?
I had no idea whatsoever I would end up doing this. I think I spent a lot of my childhood thinking that I wanted to be a veterinarian. Then I thought I wanted to be a doctor.
So different.
I know.
I know.
Yeah.
So I really didn't know until I got to college, and I really started to fall in love with movies and studying movies, and started to realize that this thing that I loved so much as like sort of a hobby, which was to go to movies and study them and think about them and read about them and write about them, could actually be a job. And then that's how it began. But I didn't know until I got to college.
Wait, so what was your original major?
Well, what ended up happening is when I first got to college, I didn't have a major at first. And then I took different classes, and I ended up becoming interested in film theory. At Brown, the major used to be called semiotics, and now it's been turned into being called the Center for Modern Media and Culture. But that was the way that we studied film. And by watching movies and studying movies, I got interested in making them.
All right, so what was your first job in the industry?
Well, when I first graduated from college, I wanted to make documentaries. I didn't know yet even that I wanted to go into feature films. And so I had gotten an internship one semester in college as a researcher, doing research for a company that made documentaries. And so when I graduated, they offered me a job, and I would read up and write about whatever subject they were making a documentary about. And then I started to do that for features as well. So if somebody was interested in making a movie based on a nonfiction subject matter, I would research that subject and write a paper about it and say, well, this is what the movie might be, and this is what really happened, and these are the parts that seem like they might lend themselves to being interesting in a movie. And I then segued from that into reading scripts and giving a synopsis of the script and doing comments on the script. And those were my first jobs.
So how did you get The Hunger Games, and did you think it was going to be such a huge success?
I first read The Hunger Games because a young guy who works for me named Brian Unkelis read the books, and he loved the first book. Only the first book had been published, and he read it and he loved it, and he asked me to read it, and I read it, and I became obsessed with it, and I couldn't. Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
I couldn't stop thinking about it. I couldn't stand the idea of not making it as a movie, and so we were able to get in touch with the author and start to make a case for why we should be the ones to produce it. While we were getting to know her, she let us read the second book, which hadn't been published yet, and we were able to win her over and convince her to let my company, Color Force, be the producer of her book into being adapted into a film. And I knew it was a great story, and I knew it would make a great movie, but I had no idea. There was just no way to possibly know that it would blow up that way. The book wasn't a huge book yet. It was a really good book, and it had a small following, but it wasn't a crazy big, phenomenon as a book yet. So there was no way to imagine. Even when it became a big book, I still just could never have imagined that it would become so big.
Why did you pick Jennifer Lawrence to star in the film?
As often is the case when you're casting, usually one person just comes in and they steal the part. They have, it's not usually a hard decision. One person comes in and that person's audition is the best audition by far. Once you've seen that person, nobody else can compare, and that's what happened with her. She came in and gave just an unbelievably powerful audition. Mm-hmm. It made the casting director, who reads opposite the actress or actor in the audition, she started to cry while she was reading the other part. And it was just, once she had read for it, really, you couldn't imagine casting anybody else.
How do you balance family and work when you're on so many locations and you're so busy?
That's probably the hardest part about being a producer. I travel a lot. I come home from wherever I am almost every weekend. Just find a way to get home as often as I possibly can, to spend as much time home as I can. If I'm shooting at a time where my family can come to me, then they come to me. And if it's during the school year and they can't come to me, then I come home to them as often as I can. I often will choose to bring a producing partner into the mix. Rather than do it all on my own, I will ask somebody to join me who I can trust, so that I have that freedom to pack up on a Friday night and leave. And even just to know the peace of mind of knowing that if I'm needed at home, if there's an important thing going on at home, that I can get home for it.
Oh, okay.
That's good.
Yeah.
Keep everything balanced.
Yeah, I was going to say, wow, because you do a lot.
Yeah.
So
the first question, there's so much.
You're good? Okay.
So we heard that the film industry is really a cutthroat industry. So we wanted to know what qualities a girl has to possess in order to succeed in this business.
Well, I think that you have to know what you think. You have to have and be able to articulate it. You have to have your own point of view about something you've read or something you've seen, and be able to say what you think in a way that other people, can understand your point of view. You have to have a point of view, and at the same time, I think you have to be receptive to the point of view of other people, because sometimes the other person might have a different idea than yours, and that idea might be better than yours. And so you have to know what you think, but also be smart enough to know when you've heard a better idea, and to not think that it lessens you to say, that's a better idea. That's a better way to do this than what I was thinking. That's a better idea for the scene than what I was thinking. Let's do it your way. And so having both a perspective of your own and a receptivity to the ideas of others, I think is important, and being resilient, being able to bounce back. There are a lot of ups and downs. There's a lot of uncertainty. It's a really unpredictable profession. Jobs come and go, movies fall apart. There are a lot of lulls, and there's just a lot of ups and downs. And if your sense of who you are falls apart every time a movie falls apart or a job falls apart, then you're not going to be well cut out for it. You have to be able to bounce back. You have to have faith in your own ability to bounce back, and you have to not let failure define you, because you can't bat 1,000, and nobody does. And it would be having, like if you were a baseball player, if every time you didn't hit the ball and you didn't get on base, if you crumbled and fell apart and decided that you should never play again, you wouldn't make a very good ball player. You're not going to bat 1,000, and you have to have a tolerance to be able to learn from a mistake and come back from it.
So, what's a question that you hate to answer?
Will you please read my screenplay? Is probably the question that I hear a lot. It seems I heard a statistic that 1 out of 3 people in Los Angeles has a screenplay. And,
oh my God.
No. I totally get it.
And that can be awkward, and
Because why?
Because you can't read everything, and mostly. There's a lot of filtering that happens before I read something usually, so you want that filtering to happen. You want the person to have had other people read it before you read it, because otherwise you've just spent a long time reading things that aren't very good, because it's hard to do it well, and most people have to do it a lot of times before they can do it well. Any successful screenwriter will have had a lot of failed screenplays usually before they have a good one, and so it's awkward when you have to say, I can't read that.
Yeah. Oh, what's something that people don't really know about you? Sorry.
I would say that that one of the most important things to me in becoming a producer and in having my own production company was being able to bring my dog to the office. And so I loved being a studio executive. I was an executive most of my career, and when I thought about, what's something about having a small company and my own company that'll be really important to me, is that I thought, someday I'll want to be able to bring my dog to the office. And so when I picked my office, that was a big decision, was, will I be able to bring my dog here? That was important to me, to be able to bring my dog to the office.
Yeah, how big's your dog?
She's about 40, 45 pounds. She's an Australian Shepherd.
That's cool. That's cool.
Okay, so Nina, we have a tradition here to give a shout out at the end of our segment. So does anyone want to give a shout out?
Well, I want to give a shout out to Kiki, who's graduating this Friday. Go seniors.
I want to give a shout out to my little cousin, who's not a senior, but she's graduating 5th grade, so that's really cool.
I want to give a shout out to my sister, who just moved home for the summer from college.
I want to give a shout out to my daughter Josie, who is here today and who is about to go off to ski camp.
Ooh.